Welcome to a Nothing from Nothing production. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Christopher with Bill Turley, and this is the Junction Podcast, a podcast about growing up in Brooklyn in the 1970s and 80s. We're hoping to protect the names of the innocent as well as the extremely guilty, and there were plenty of those. Well, here goes. Welcome back to The Junction, a podcast about growing up in Brooklyn in the 1970s and 80s. And this time we're going to talk about the Great Schism. No, not the schism between China and Russia. And I think they're going to say Catholicism and Protestantism. No, neither one of those. We're going to talk about something that dominated our lives for a couple of years. This is disco and rock and roll. Rock and roll. So I was a rock and roller till I realized I was not going to get laid. TMI. I needed to become more of a disco person. Now, I didn't buy into all this, but you had the kind of look, as I recall, that could pull off the disco look.
When I needed to, I think, yeah, hair going in there.
What was your reaction to it when rock and roll had been the dominant music art form, and kids today don't have the sort of cultural tie to music that they had back then, suffice to say, right? Back then, we had, you had to be part of, like,
you were in one camp or the other.
Right, but first, you needed to be into music, right? I mean, today, kids can get by with not giving a shit about music. Everybody, you had kids who had no idea had Led Zeppelin or so on.
Well, I'm after just putting it in perspective, our generation, we were kind of in between the Woodstock generation and the disco generation,
Yes.
I mean, we were far too young to have gone to Woodstock. I was only 10 that summer. But I have an older brother and older sister that, really turned me on to a lot of really good music. Jefferson Airplane and, of course, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, Stones, Cream. So I had a lot of good stuff. But by the time disco came around, which I would say was around 74, 73, 74?
75.
Okay.
There was funk stuff.
Yeah.
There was, the beginnings, but 75, I think, was the hustle. Yeah. First big hit.
Yeah. But there was some stuff, a little bit before that. And then, the thing was that, and really did create two camps.
Oh, it was a dramatic schism. And I asked, it got very heated, and rock and roll also was tied to smoking a lot of marijuana.
Yeah.
Right. And you wore jeans jackets, you had long hair. I mean, it was a uniform.
Yes.
And that's what was interesting. A teacher once said to me, I can't believe you people are talking about the conformity, like wearing school outfits and stuff, when you're the most conformist generation of all time, wearing the jean jackets, and then Led Zeppelin shirts and Pink Floyd shirts and and long hair. You all look the same.
Look, I would consider myself more of a rock fan.
Yes.
But, look, I played music all my life. And I played in the band in Nazareth. And I liked all kinds of music, and so disco wasn't really like abhorrent to me. Some of those melodies would be to me, I thought were very catchy. The beat was the thing.
Yeah. So Jerry Garcia said that the beat was so prominent, even white people could dance to it.
Yeah, and look, disco was sexier. There's no question, But, look, I never really put myself in one camp or the other. I liked it all. I really did. There's some disco music. I hear it on the radio. I don't turn it off. I think it's something that's pretty good.
Oh, well, it took me some time. What happened was, again, this is a recurring theme. The focus was to meet a girl, you know what I mean? And so we have a friend who we'll have on the show at some point who was meeting every girl in the world. So he was pure disco. And I went, I'm going to become friends with him, John Lombardi.
He's a great dancer.
Yeah, he's an incredible dancer. And I went, I'm going to become friends with him because if I can become friends with him, maybe I'll get his, his rejects or whatever, I swear to God, that was my thinking. But rock and roll, the reason there was such a dramatic rejection of disco at the time was, hey, rock and roll only been dominating for like 20 years, 54, 55,
right.
All this, and but
it's hard to believe it. It was only 20 years.
Yeah, like Chuck Berry and all that, right? And now it's 1975. It's like, wait, it's too early to knock this off, right? But there was also, I met Dave watching a football game in Florida, a friend of mine, African American, and he said, was this Disco Sucks thing racist? Right? And there is an element, maybe, it quickly went away because it became very Italian.
It did.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Was there a rejection? Was it racist blowing up the disco records in Wrigley Field and
on the Disco Demolition,
disco demolition?
Steve Dahl and Comiskey Park. And
But I don't know if he was racist.
now,
Was that?
you know what? I think that minority kids seem to prefer disco more,
Yeah.
you know, but, you know, there are always the exceptions that either, you know,
Well, I know. So he thought it was. And I said, I don't know. Yeah, I remember just being pissed. You know, for me, I was a rocker, you know, and it was like, it was too early to take this away from us, you know?
yeah.
And I remember then I was like, but it was becoming the cultural phenomenon. So it was, you know, you get really stained corporate rock. Like you have 1975 has Blood on the Tracks, Bob Dylan, Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, It's Up on Physical Graffiti, Paul McCartney and Wayne's Venus and Mars. So you had a good kind of, you know, Bruce Springsteen, Queen, Night at the Opera, that's Aerosmith. So you had this real great last gasp of that late 60s or mid 70s stuff. And in 1976, it's like Rod Stewart, it's, you know, Lee Joel, a little more boring. I love those guys, but I'm just saying, any McCartney's and probably some of his, Stevie Wonder became huge and songs of the heel, but it was not, and Peter Frampton was big, but it was not like that powerhouse year in 1971. Like rock was losing steam, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is that a fair thing to say? Right? It was losing steam. And in England, they said, fuck this. And they went with the Sex Pistols in 77.
Well, that's the thing, that the punk and the new wave thing really kind of, you know, revived the rock and roll.
So they gave it a shot of adrenaline. The disco comes out, it starts dominating. Disco Inferno. Ring the bell, ring the bell. And then at the end of 77, you have the Bee Gees. Saturday Night Fever.
Couldn't escape that.
You couldn't escape it. It was everywhere. And everybody started wearing those pleather jackets, bell-bottom polyester pants, shoes with heels on them, right? You know? And everybody started wearing like that look. And then really horrible, short, you know, John Travolta haircut. That's like,
I had one of those.
you know, I mean, you could pull it off. I had to keep my hair, you know. But anyways, it was a pretty horrible haircut, you know. But so was the hippie hair.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a style.
The disco revolution started probably around around 75.
475. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't conscious of it till 77.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was almost out of high school, but it took hold. And you know what's interesting? It's like our generation kind of fell in between the Woodstock generation and disco generation. You say?
Yes, I'm a little younger than you, but I mean substantially younger than you.
Well, all right, okay. Well, I'll give you a hand down there. The summer of Woodstock, I was 10 years old. I was about to turn 11.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was 1969.
yeah.
So I was far too young to have gone to Woodstock. You know, it's really funny, Mark. Whenever you talk to people about Woodstock, you know, I've met very few people who said they were actually there. But
I met one guy.
yeah, you know, but you always hear people say, "Hey, you know, I almost went." You know,
I swear to God.
I almost went. You know, but yeah,
But you know what I heard from the friend of mine that went is he had said that it was a big muddy mess.
oh yeah,
And what it didn't look as, you know, this beautiful thing of peace and love. And there's a whole thing about how it created such an enormous commerce for rock and roll. But that was the legacy, right? That was the group of our older brothers that had, you know, all of the albums of these great artists from the 60s and early 70s. And it informed our own musical experience.
yeah. I mean, my older brother and sister are like maybe half a generation older than me, and they exposed me to a lot of great music.
I used to go over a friend Mike's house because he had about 400 albums from his older brother. And I remember I needed to hear Freak Out by Frank Zappa. Okay. And the Mothers of Invention. Because I had heard the Beatles, the Stones, Dylan, the Who. And he used to get the more obscure artists. And Frank Zappa's not an obscure artist, but the kids don't know who he is today. And he used to it would be like a gold mine going through his albums and finding these incredible records.
God, yeah. I mean, you know, growing up, I can remember like in the, mid-60s listening to, of course, some Beatles and some Rolling Stones. But then I remember my older brother brought home Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced?
Unbelievable.
And I was like, what the heck is this? And then one of my Desert Island discs, Surrealistic Pillow by the Jefferson Airplane. Well, I heard that, and I was a young kid. I was like, wow, there's something else.
I think the production style,
Oh, yeah.
and it became like I was a, what do they call that? Somebody who's antediluvian, somebody for the past that was
Before the flood.
before the flood. I was Beatles, Stones, Who, Dylan.
Yeah.
And they were like listening to more interesting, obscure artists from that era. And it became like, enough with your Beatles and your Stones and your Dylan. And they said that there's a lyric to one of those Bowie songs that,
All the young dudes.
yeah, all the young dudes about how
But it's still,
you and your Beatles and the Stones are on to Bowie now. But
and then the Clash, they thought, phony Beatle made his dust.
that was about the Broadway show.
Yeah.
They went to England and it failed. And I went to see that show.
Okay. More misunderstood lyric. Right.
Yeah. And forget about misunderstood lyrics,
Excuse me while I kiss this.
Yeah, I used to think that was a gay reference.
Okay.
Excuse me while I kiss this guy. And it was,
What my famous one was. The Thrill Is Gone.
yeah.
I always thought it was Willie's dog. But anyway, so so
The kids today, right? The thing that's important to get across here is that music was such a part of the cultural milieu, right? It was like you identified very heavily with music, who you like, what you ever about, right?
Yeah.
And that generation, was everyone. It was like 88%, 90% of the kids had some sort of affiliation with music. Where today, you can get by, and not give a hoot about music at all. Like all the kids today don't have the same sort of. I mean, there's some that do, right? But it's a much smaller group. And maybe they'll attach. There's the Swifties, right? But that's even younger than when we were 18.
You know what E. Taylor's was?
I actually do.
I do. She seems like a very nice person, and
I
don't know any.
I actually said I gotta get on the bandwagon. I gotta become a Swiftie. So I started listening a little, and I like Anti-Hero, I think it's called, and Lavender something.
Yeah.
And so during my jaunts in Bonita Springs around the complex, right? I very melodic, and what I find from her, just to dovetail into Taylor Swift, is that she's extraordinarily melodic, beautiful voice, beautiful woman, and she has sort of an urban sensibility in how the music is produced.
Right.
But the lyrics are dopey teenage lyrics.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'm going to give it a listen.
yeah, it's charming.
Well, once I finish my Medicare application,
You got a free walker when you get to
Right.
when you get to Fort Myers Airport. They give you a free walker. They give you the scooter. The day we're on a scooter, bro, that's a bridge too far for me. The day we're over 250 weight wise in a scooter with a little American flag on the back, smoking Marlboros. The day that happens, put a bullet in my head, Bill. I give you total permission. But anyways, back to this schism here. There were two camps, right?
right. Just go into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened was, with the two camps we had, I just remember there was the thing that one teacher came up to me once, and you know who it was. I mean, he's dearly departed. Mr. Holmes came up and said to me, right? He goes, "You kids talk about not wanting to wear school uniforms, but you are the most conformist group of people I've ever met." And this is pre-disco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had the dungaree jackets,
Flannel shirt. Yeah.
and we had what became a grunge look. Long unkempt hair. They didn't learn how to style hair until disco, I think, right? I mean, because if you think about it, it's all unkempt.
Yeah. I mean,
There was-
there were some hairstylists for young. Remember the Kings Plaza Mall had what was it called? Hair house or something like
That's right. And there'd be all pictures of different.
that.
There'd be all different heads.
Right.
You picked a picture from a head. I like to look like that guy.
Every head he's ever put in.
Oh, every head, yeah. And I remember, so I said, nah, there's some individuality in this. But I remember that you had to kind of be involved in this stuff, meaning you had to have an affinity for music and you socialized, connected. And I remember this kid, right? And he was all in. he had like leather jackets with chains on it, and he had Led Zeppelin shirts every week. Like he pushed forward that he was a fan of Led Zeppelin, which was the biggest, let's say, English act of the 1970s. The Beatles had broken up, the Stones maybe, but pretty much the biggest act, right? And
You say that because the Bee Gees
blew him out of the water, and there was so much that went on in that short, compacted period of time. But this guy, I remember, I said, this guy's a poser. He's full of shit, right?
Okay.
There's no way he likes music or knows music to the extent, because he never jumps in when we say, "Hey, did you hear Clapton solo on this?" Or he had no affinity for it. So I said to him, I just said, everybody knew this. And it was like sort of a silent thing that we all knew that, his mullet, right, was bullshit. His jackets were bullshit. So I said, hey, which member of Led Zeppelin do you like best? Do you like Fred, Ed, Ted, or Ned? Or Ted, Ned. Oh, and he goes, I think I like Ned Zeppelin.
Oh, okay.
I think I like
Get out of here.
I think I like Ned Zeppelin. But
He did.
that's my favorite Zeppelin. Right? So that's a true story. Sitting on the back of the bus, by the way.
Okay.
And so that was one of my, sarcastic moments. But as it went on,
It was 7, right?
yeah, the B7.
We took the 8.
You went the other way. God, that was hell. I know it doesn't sound like hell.
In the butt.
I mean, you'd sit there. Could you imagine? You sit there and you'd be freezing. And they used to have real winters back then, right? They're all fake winters now, right? Right. And so you'd be sitting there freezing and, you'd have to wait sometimes like 30, 40 minutes for the bus.
Yeah.
And it was a 30-minute bus ride?
Ours was about 15 minutes, and sometimes we just wound up walking.
Today I would walk.
Yeah.
Today I would say, screw this, I'm just going to walk the 30 blocks. I can't believe I was such a lazy bastard.
Pick you up.
Yeah, well, no, my parents, they would not be picking me up.
Wait.
So stylistically, you had kids dressed like kind of grunge, with the dungaree jackets, dungarees. You had jocks kind of in that kind of golf shirts and stuff. And then you had the disco guys who were very involved in their appearance. Today, I think kids are a little bit more conformist to. I actually think the styles in the last 30 years are exponentially better than that swath of time from 1965 to 1985. I think that was a nightmare, maybe even into the early 90s. For the last 30 years, I think things have coalesced around acceptable styles. But then you were really making a decision by what you wore, and kids took, for the first time, I believe, really started paying attention to their hair. I mean, you had men using blow dryers at the first style.
Yeah.
I remember what's his face blew the hair off his head. It was the blast. Did it so much the doctor said, "What are you doing? You're blowing your hair twice a day."
Okay, yeah.
So he was Lance blew all the hair off his head with his blow dryer. But if I would say, dude, your hair's thinning, you're 16 years old, you're 17 years old, my doctor said, stop blow drying. I said, what, are you addicted to doing that? And he was like sitting constantly fucking with his hair.
Yeah, I don't know. I think male power and boldness is really the culprit there.
Yeah, probably. But
Yeah.
we would go, and so disco was getting so huge, and I had like 2 outfits. I had my hippie outfit, and I had my disco outfit.
Your flowered shirt.
Yeah, I showed up at a party, and they put disco on, and if I wore the wrong outfit, right? And people were really disdainful. Like, they were like, what are you, like a disco guy?
And it's really funny how disco was such a macho thing too, but the ironic thing is that it has very strong roots in the gay community.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yes. And I was, and actually they always had better music. I remember always finding something interesting and new. Like, for instance, I Feel Loved by Donna Summer. I heard that in Fire Island. I was like, what the fuck is this? I never heard it anywhere. Yeah, later I would hear more of it. But they, but it was definitely kind of a whole new explosion of an art form. And I got no problem with it. When I hear it now, I mean, even the most, obvious stuff. Some is dated, like Push in the Bush. Because nobody's got bushes anymore. I don't know if you knew about that.
All right.
So anyways, it was like,
Quality of this conversation.
this is went down a little tour, but so to me, you know, you had the Tramps. They didn't have a really dominant artist. It was a lot of one-hit wonders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like any except the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees, you know, had a bunch of hits. And at the same time, like there was a schism in school, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you were either going to sit at a table at lunch with and it was mostly Italians who were hardcore disco
guys, yeah.
and then I guess whoever else was a rocker.
You know, it's interesting too. Do you remember like kind of the glam rock and David Bowie?
That was kind of edgy again.
Yeah. They were like, they dressed almost like disco kids, but they were like
A little more rock and roll.
yeah,
Right.
the platform shoes and the
You had to make a choice of who you're going to sit with,
yeah.
right? I mean, you defined yourself. I remember one guy, Steve, who was in, he had that haircut and he adopted the disco. Tom was a little more, Tom pulled it off, your brother Tom, right?
He could go either way.
Yeah, he can go either way.
That's the
And I were either way.
Tom's good dancer, my brother.
Yeah. So what it was is it was a conduit to me, girls. And then I liked Shame by Evelyn Champagne.
Yeah, great song.
Because the sax ripping through that was really good, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember like the Italians and the Irish fighting and, which we'll talk about this.
But yeah, had the crossovers there too. And who knows, maybe they were a mixed ethnic.
There were actually crossovers. There was a mixture in both.
Well, okay, the Irish kids that like, you know, that sported the, you know, disco hairdo and all thing we used to call them.
I think,
Green cuisines.
oh, that's right. That's right.
Green cuisines, yeah.
That's so
Yeah. Well, there were, you know, the Italian kids who like wore their hair long, the flannel shirts and the work boots, and yeah, it was, you know.
Yeah, there was crossovers. It was more a cultural thing, and but I remember
Like Paul, who's going to on this show, was not in this.
no, but he did it for a little bit. He didn't do that. He started wearing suits.
Okay.
He started going out looking for girls wearing suits, and it
No, the 19.
19.
Yeah, you're a funny guy.
You know, and but the disco rock thing was quite a schism. And then what happened? Music was so important, still is to me and to you. We're both in bands and both have played in bands, right? And I remember, right? I was still steadfast. Beatles, Stones, Hooter,
Right.
Dylan, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it might have been at the time, Doors, you know, somebody got dead already, you know, the Doors and stuff, you know, all that stuff. And I remember Seamus, I won't give his last name, and he said, I'm missing three fingers, right? And Seamus got us into, was it the Parliament where we saw the Police?
That was the, oh boy, I'm losing it there. It begins with a P.
Bottom line, the place was the rock and roll show place. And he used to just wave his friends in, you know? He would wave his friends in. I remember you with a friend, I think it was Johnson, and you were wearing a suit.
Okay.
You look cool, right?
All right.
But we made fun of you because you were wearing...
That was the police.
Right.
Okay, it used to be, I know it's a Trader Joe's now. It's on Fort,
Oh, my God, Paulin?
not the Paramount. Oh boy.
We'll remember our over. So anyways, so I was so anti-New Wave and so anti... This just shows you, I was so anti... The Palladium, right? I was so anti all of that. And he used to get us in there. I'd seen Jeff Hotel, Frank Zappa, Joni Mitchell. I saw so many great. I've been trying to forever. And he used to let me in. And he set up a little seat for me. And me and Tom went separate from you. You with me?
Well, it's the police, right?
Yeah, but so we get to this balcony position, me and Tom.
We were whacked that night.
We were whacked. You didn't do anything, but I'm in it. I had marijuana dipped in opium, you know. I mean, we'll see. So anyways, I had marijuana, right? So we're sitting.
It's legal, Mark.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
It's so silly. I don't do anything anymore, just my beard. But anyways, I'm sitting in the front row, right?
Yeah.
The front row.
Yeah.
In this balcony. And I was totally resistant to this experience. And Sting comes out and he goes, we did this song last night. We just recorded it in London. Hope you like it. Boom, boom, boom. He goes into walking on the moon. And me and Tom are like, our eyes are this big. Yeah, New York the club scene was amazing. The rock clubs, the disco clubs. And then I'll tell this one last thing. When we talk about the schism.
Well, the schism. That's just getting back to
Yeah, we gotta get back to that.
I remember my younger sister telling me about a party she went to at this one of her classmates' house, and the parents they were immigrants. They were from Italy, and they spoke heavy accents, and the kids were having this real battle over what kind of music they were going to play, and they're down in the basement, and disco sucks. Here's Zeppelin back and forth, and it's getting really rambunctious, and finally the mom comes down and says, "Hey, come on, you kids, play nice. So watching the Love Boat."
The Love Boat.
This had to be like probably early '80s, because this gives them.
What bring the Love Boat? They go sit down. They don't get on the couch and watch the Love Boat.
But this carried over well into the '80s.
Yeah, and So basically, the thing that emerged was
A flock of seagulls changed.
yeah, and then it changed again, but it didn't change as much. It was like a 10-year period, which we're going to do in a later episode about why we believe the music of the 60s and 70s was not only revolutionary, but far superior to anything today. So with that, we're going to close this episode, which is Rock versus Disco. And I want to thank you all for joining and say good night, Bill.
It's been a blast.
We'll talk to you soon. See you on the next episode of The Junction.
And the mother comes in and says, "Hey, come on, play nice and watch the Love Boat."
Well, I love it, American style. Just Sliding Away, written, recorded, and performed by William Turley.